Welcome back to Guru Chronicles. This is Soul Guru, getting ready to take you on another journey / session. This one's more personal. It's still dealing with relationships, but it's more, for me, a personal relationship thing I want to share with you. Hopefully you can grab something out of it that can help deliver, heal, restore, and take you to another level in your relationships. So, real quick, my daughter's an athlete. She runs for her college here in Charlotte and for her university. She's been running tracks since middle school and everything. They have an excellent service, which is like a therapist for athletes. And my wife and I suggested for her about a year or so ago to step out and try to resolve some things and to move forward a little bit with some things she was personally dealing with through a therapist. And so she's been doing that. She's had a great relationship with her therapist. And last Sunday, she's getting ready to graduate. She's excited. We're excited. She's always processing things with my wife and I. And in the midst of that situation, I overheard her talking to my wife about she's been trying to communicate with her dad. Justice, I inherited her when I married Stephanie, and I'm okay with that. I understood everything that was involved and that was at stake with that. So I had no problems with that. I've been really the main father she's known for the most part, besides her natural dad. He chose another path. Even though I contacted him when I first married Stephanie, I mentioned to him personally, man to man, that I wanted to have an open relationship with us to the point where I would not and did not want to be a hindrance to him feeling like he could not see his daughter or have a relationship with her. Making a long story short, that conversation went very well, but there was no action from that on his part. So, fast forward to today. My daughter still has issues meeting male friends because of the dysfunctional relationship with her natural dad. Because of that feeling of rejection and the rejection that took place, of a lack of involvement in her life, that has had an effect. But to make a long story short, with her therapist, she's made a lot of good strides and she's doing some great things with the therapist. But the thing that hit me was the therapist, suggested for her to reach out and try to obtain her resolve with her dad. And so I overheard her talking to my wife about, she's reached out to them. She sees on social media how, he's with his other children. They're out in different places. They're traveling and doing things. And, she's just like, wow, I'm the oldest out of all of them, and I have no connection with that part of my family. Being that he chose to be absent, he chose not to be involved because he feels that it was us and we kept him from her. But I told you the original discussion. There's a part of anger that came over me that every time she's getting ready to graduate, he pops up. This happened in elementary, happened around middle school, happened at high school, and now it's happening in college. The time gaps between those particular events, those major events in life. And so I'm trying to get through this quickly. The main point is I emotionally totally expressed myself. I broke down in front of my family, in front of my daughters and my wife, about how I felt about them, how I felt about the situation. And my daughter assured me that there's no competition. Because I felt like now I have to compete with another guy who chose to be absent and I've been there all along. How do you get to do that? How do you get to step out of your child's life that you created and then step in when you want? How do you get to do that? And on my end, how do I live with that? That there's an interest for her to know that side. That bothered me. But she has every right to. So that placed me in a very tough place. But based on the support relationship I have with my wife, the level of communication with my daughter, as she broke down in front of me, and I attempted to try to hold her, and she said, no, wait. And she kept me at a distance, but held my hand and looked at me. And she broke down to me that there is no competition. You have always been my number one. You have always been there for me. And the void you said that only he can fill, you have already filled it. I was blown away. Totally. And that just meant so much to me. That meant a lot to me. And she said, I can assure you, as I get closure for this, I have to get to know him and them to get the closure that I need. Even if it opens up a relationship, it will not impede Dad or stop any part of our relationship. And so I'm sharing that story because sometimes you get hit with things in life when it happens. And when you blend a family, things are going to happen. Things are going to happen. This is a tough place for me. I'm still struggling to digest that process. And I'm trying to look at the most positive way I can support her. And that's what I told her. I said, well, I'm going to support you to get your closure and your resolve. And if seeing them is what you need, if being around them is what you need to help you get to know them, I said, I'm for it. I'm for it. And I really mean that. I really mean that. And so in your relationship, again, I'm talking about being selfless. I'm talking about dying to yourself, laying down what you want and considering the other person. That's very necessary if you have children. Who's the adult? You or your child? And there's some things your child may need where you as the adult will have to die and lay it down for them. And she's my oldest. She's my first born. For her, I would not have stepped into manhood. Stephanie helped a lot, but it was my oldest that really helped me understand the responsibility I had, what fatherhood included. This was major. And so there's a lot of blended families in this nation. It's so many. I'm not going to say it's too many, but there's too many families being blended and they're being smashed together. They're not being communicated. There's no love. There's a lot of going against one another. There's a lot of fighting and arguing. And our situation's kind of like that. But what her father needs to know is, we're willing to meet you halfway, but we have to have trust first. That requires consistent communication. So again, somebody has to have a standard, and sometimes people don't meet the standard. And your standard has to be realistic, and I think for the safety of your child, I think that's realistic. I need to know who you are and what you're around. I have no idea what you're around or what you're about. And so that's the same thing for relationships. You have no idea what a guy is about. You don't know where he's from. You don't know who his family is. You don't know what they do. So with our kids, this is my first female, this is my daughter. And I know you're her biological, but I haven't talked to you in 2 years. I haven't heard from you in 5 years. Now you're coming out the blue. I don't even know where you live anymore. I don't know anything about you. You just want her to go off with you? It's my job to protect her. That's what I'm going to do. But I have to be fair to her. I have to be supportive to her too as she goes through this process. And so this is my 13th video. The next video will be the last for the season. I'm excited. I got some new things coming up. We're going to talk about blended families. We're going to talk about raising children and getting this thing right, because right now we stink at raising our children in this country. Your child should not control your house, and they should not control you. And at the same time, you should not manipulate or control your child, but support, guide, and instruct them. Because in this life we have challenges. There's always tests. And you know we go through. But you know I'm going to keep putting these videos out so you can support your soul guru. I'm out.